The global financial system, intricately woven around the US dollar, faces an unprecedented crisis. Imagine a world where the dollar, the bedrock of international trade and reserves, suddenly loses its value overnight. This isn't a slow decline, but an abrupt, catastrophic devaluation, sending tremors through every financial market. Stock markets worldwide would instantly flash red, their screens ablaze with plummeting figures and panicked alerts. Banks, once pillars of stability, would reel from catastrophic losses, their balance sheets dissolving into insolvency. The intricate web of global commerce, meticulously built over decades, would grind to an immediate, terrifying halt. This scenario, once relegated to the realm of speculative fiction, would become a stark, undeniable reality. Over 60% of global reserves are currently held in dollars, a staggering sum underpinning national economies. Its sudden collapse would trigger an immediate, widespread panic, unlike anything humanity has ever witnessed. Currencies would fluctuate wildly, making international transactions impossible to price or guarantee. The trust that forms the very foundation of financial dealings would evaporate, leaving chaos in its wake. International trade, predominantly priced in dollars, would freeze solid, paralyzing global supply chains. Container ships, laden with essential goods, would be left stranded in ports, unable to complete their journeys. Factories would cease production as raw materials become unobtainable and finished products unsellable. Supermarket shelves would quickly empty, and fuel pumps would run dry within days, sparking civil unrest. The intricate logistical networks that feed and power the world would shatter under the immense pressure. This economic abyss would force nations to desperately seek alternatives, but none would be readily available. The sheer scale of the dollar's dominance means no single currency or asset could absorb the shock. Governments would scramble, holding emergency meetings, but their usual tools would prove utterly useless. The crisis would transcend economic theory, becoming a profound humanitarian challenge on a global scale. People would lose their life savings, pensions would vanish, and the concept of financial security would crumble. The very fabric of society, reliant on economic stability, would begin to fray and unravel rapidly. This isn't just a recession, it's a complete systemic breakdown, a reset button pressed on the global economy. The world would be plunged into an era of unprecedented uncertainty, fear, and profound transformation. Every nation, rich or poor, would feel the devastating repercussions of the dollar's sudden cataclysmic fall. Yet, even in this dire scenario, the dollar's legacy would persist, a ghost haunting the ruins of global finance. For decades, it had been the undisputed king, shaping treaties, dictating trade, and underpinning prosperity. Its influence was so pervasive that its absence would leave an unfillable void, a chasm in the economic order. The dollar had not merely been a currency, it was a symbol of stability, a promise of predictable exchange. It facilitated the rise of multinational corporations and enabled the seamless flow of goods and services. From the smallest transaction to the largest international loan, its presence was felt, its power undeniable. This deep embedding meant that even in collapse, its shadow would loom large over any attempts at recovery. The infrastructure built around it, payment systems, legal frameworks, financial institutions, would crumble. But the memory of its efficiency, its universal acceptance, would linger, a benchmark for future endeavors. Economists and historians would forever dissect the mechanisms that led to its downfall, seeking lessons. They would analyze the intricate dance of geopolitics, monetary policy, and market forces that sealed its fate. The dollar's story would become a cautionary tale, a stark reminder of the fragility of even the mightiest systems. Its collapse would force a re-evaluation of economic principles, challenging long-held assumptions about global power. New systems would eventually emerge, born from the ashes of the old, but they would carry the scars of this event. The world would learn that no single entity, however dominant, is immune to the forces of change and instability. The dollar's legacy would be one of both immense power and ultimate vulnerability, a paradox etched in history. Future generations would study its rise and fall, understanding the profound impact it had on their world. They would see how one currency could shape an entire era, defining global relations and economic progress. And they would witness how its sudden demise could unravel decades of interconnected development and trust. The dollar's final chapter would be a testament to its unparalleled influence and the catastrophic consequences of its end. It would be a story of a financial titan, whose reign, though absolute, was ultimately finite and susceptible to collapse. The world would never truly forget the dollar, for its imprint was too deep, its role too central to be erased. Its ghost would linger in every new currency discussion, every trade negotiation, every attempt at global stability. The lessons learned from its fall would guide the architects of the new financial order, for better or worse. The dollar's legacy would not just be in its power, but in the profound void it left behind, a testament to its reign. It would be a constant reminder that even the most entrenched systems can be upended, demanding adaptability. The collapse would force a global reckoning, a re-evaluation of dependencies, and the pursuit of true resilience. In the aftermath, nations would strive for diversification, wary of placing all their economic eggs in one basket. The dollar's story would serve as a powerful historical marker, dividing eras into before and after its fall. Its influence, though ended, would continue to shape the contours of the global economy for generations to come. The world would remember the dollar not just as money, but as a force that shaped the modern financial system. Its rise was a marvel of economic engineering, its fall a stark warning of inherent systemic risks. The dollar's legacy is a complex tapestry of power, stability, and ultimately, the fragility of human constructs. It is a narrative that underscores the constant evolution of global finance and the enduring quest for economic order. And so, the dollar, even in its absence, would continue to define the very essence of global financial discourse. Following the dollar's catastrophic collapse, which had plunged the world into an economic abyss, a desperate search for new financial anchors began. The global financial system, once intricately woven around the US dollar, now lay in ruins, demanding an immediate and radical transformation. Economists, once confident in their predictions, found themselves grappling with unprecedented uncertainty as the bedrock of international trade crumbled. The very foundations of commerce and stability had been shaken, leaving a void that desperately needed to be filled. Some theorized that gold, humanity's oldest store of value, would inevitably surge, reclaiming its ancient role as the ultimate safe haven. They envisioned central banks and individual investors alike scrambling to convert their now worthless dollar holdings into gleaming bullion. This sudden demand, they argued, would propel gold prices to astronomical heights, creating a new, albeit traditional, financial standard. The allure of its tangible nature and historical resilience offered a comforting alternative in a world turned upside down. Others, however, pointed to the burgeoning world of digital assets, suggesting that cryptocurrencies might finally achieve mainstream acceptance. The decentralized nature of these digital currencies, free from government control, seemed an attractive alternative to a system that had failed so spectacularly. Proponents imagined a future where blockchain technology underpinned a new, transparent, and resilient global financial network. This vision offered a radical departure from traditional finance, promising a more equitable and secure transactional environment. Yet, despite these fervent discussions and speculative forecasts, a stark reality loomed large. No single system could possibly replace the dollar's deeply embedded role overnight. The sheer volume of trillions of dollars circulating daily, facilitating countless transactions across every continent, was simply staggering. Its sudden removal from the global economy would send shockwaves far beyond mere market fluctuations, impacting every corner of human activity. The dollar hadn't merely facilitated the modern financial system, it had profoundly shaped its very architecture, becoming an indispensable part of its structure. It was a language of international commerce, the standard for commodity pricing, and the primary reserve currency for nations worldwide. Its influence permeated every aspect of global finance, from the smallest cross-border payment to the largest sovereign debt issuance. The intricate web of global trade agreements, financial regulations, and national reserves was all denominated in dollars. Therefore, its sudden disappearance was not merely a market correction, a temporary downturn from which recovery was assured. Instead, it represented a cataclysmic event, an existential crisis for the global economic order that had prevailed for decades. The stability it had provided, however imperfect, was now gone, leaving a vacuum of uncertainty and fear. This unprecedented collapse would necessitate a complete and painful reevaluation of every economic principle and international agreement. Nations would be forced to forge new alliances, establish alternative trade mechanisms, and redefine their monetary policies from the ground up. The process would be arduous, fraught with political tensions and economic dislocations on an unimaginable scale. The consequences would be profound and lasting, reshaping geopolitical landscapes and impacting the daily lives of every nation and individual. From the price of bread to the stability of governments, no aspect of life would remain untouched by this monumental shift. The world had to confront the daunting task of rebuilding brick by painful brick, a new financial future from the ashes of the dollar's fall. This was not just an economic challenge, but a test of human resilience and adaptability on a global scale. The legacy of the dollar, though now a memory, would forever serve as a stark reminder of the fragility of even the most powerful systems.